There we go. So you're going to have a chapter 15 test tomorrow. You were going to get your review yesterday. Snow day happened, of course, as far as that goes. But kind of like we were talking about last week, your chapter assessment type tests are now on, which will help build with you through your junior year. There are going to be 20 questions. Half of those are going to be maps, graph, or chart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you the other 10 to review. Okay, so you're going to have 10 questions right now. And if you would, go ahead and write these down as we go through it. So then that way you have the opportunity to study those specific 10 questions. Again, that's not asking a whole lot out of you to make sure that you find the 10 answers to these questions that I'm going to ask you. I'm going to post this on the YouTube channel. So if you missed something question-wise and you want to go back, you want to listen to it, kind of go over it on your own, you're more than welcome to do so. So then that way it kind of helps you out. But you'll have 50% of the test will be this that I'm about to give you. And then 50% of the test will be your maps, graphs, and charts. As soon as you're done with your test tomorrow, you will start creating your notes on chapter 16, section 1, which we're going to kind of give a little intro to at the end of class today. But again, if you will, go ahead and write down these specific review questions to kind of help you out. And I'll help spell some of these for you. The first question is, what was mostly traded between Africa and Asia? And like you can put in parentheses, type of material. So what was mostly traded between Africa and Asia? What was mostly traded between Africa and Asia? Okay, and the next one. Why was Portugal, Portugal, first interested with Africa? Why was Portugal first interested with Africa? Okay, next one. Between the years 800 and 1500. Between the years 800 and 1500, which countries mainly traded with Africa? So again, a lot of this stuff has to do with trade. Between the years 800 and 1500, which countries traded with Africa? 15, 1500, 800 and 1500. Okay, I'll spell this one out for you. Who is Sundiata? Sundiata. Who is Sundiata? Sundiata. Okay. Which great city, that's your hint, which great city controlled most trade routes at the center of Africa's empire?
No, what to do with Africa?
That's because the whole chapter is over Africa.
The center of what?
Which city controlled most trade routes at the center of African empires? Which great city? That's your hint. Center of Africa's empire. All right. How did stateless societies organize itself? How did stateless societies organize itself? We looked at two definitions whenever we were talking about it during last week. What's that called? There's like a mother side and a father side. There's a specific, there's a specific name that combines two of them. Okay. Swahili. Next question. Swahili. SWAHILI. Language developed from what two languages? Swahili language developed from what two languages? Okay. Which group is responsible for the Almohads? And I'll spell that for you. ALMOHADS. Okay, I'll spell it again. ALMOHADS. And the Almoravids. ALMORAVIDS. Okay, so like those two groups, where did they come from? Okay, what group was responsible for those two groups? Okay. This one's a short one. How did Ghana, GHANA, get rich? How did Ghana get rich? Okay, and last question. Which people broke away from Mali's, MALI, apostrophe S? Which group broke away from Mali's control and took over trade routes? Which group broke away from Mali's control and took over trade routes? MALI apostrophe S. Okay, then the other half of your test again is going to be map, graph, and chart. Whenever you come in tomorrow, you won't be able to use your notes on it. I'll lock you into Canvas. You'll take your 20 questions. As soon as you get done with your 20 questions, you'll move over to start doing chapter 16-1 notes that are in there. Okay. At the end of class today, here in a little bit, I'll give you time to start working on that. So then that way you don't have to do it all at your house. But the first thing I want you to do for the introduction to chapter 16, section 1, is I want you to look up here on the board, and there's two words. It says Native Americans. Okay. So like if I say cars, and I tell you to close your eyes and think about a specific type of car, something comes into your mind automatically. Okay. There's probably a color of a car that comes into your mind. There's probably a type of car that comes into your mind. Okay. Some of you may have a car that is a sports car. Some of you may have a truck that's got an 8-inch lift kit on it. Some of you may have a truck that's sitting low to the ground. Some of you may have tinted windows. Some of you may have stickers all over it. Some of you may have a chameleon paint job on it. Some of you may have just a straight up white paint job on it. Okay. But all of these things come to your mind whenever you're thinking about the specific word that somebody says, and it just pops in there. Okay. So explain to me what comes to your mind whenever you see the words Native Americans. And it's kind of been, a hot topic this last year, of course, with all political correctness and everything else in the United States, like the Redskins, the name change of the Redskins, the name change of the Cleveland Indians that's progressing toward. Okay. So when I say Native Americans, what pops into your mind, like the example that I said with cars, what pops in your mind? What are some of the characteristics you automatically come up with? Raise your hand. What's up?
Cherokee.
Okay, so a type of group that you already know, whether it's the Cherokees, whether it's the Arapaho, whether it's Comanches, whether it's the Apaches, but there's groups of Indians that have names associated with them to us that automatically put them in groups or societies that are there, clans, kinships, families, things like that that are in the past. Okay, good. What else? What else? What's that? Okay, so as in the United States, okay? So let's think of this, like, how did they get to the United States? What's something that pops in your mind and thinks about that? We've talked about this before, world history-wise. How'd they get here?
They already here.
Okay, possibly. How else?
Sailed over.
Okay, sailed over, maybe. What else? How did the original people, by what we associate with, how did they get to the Americas?
Was it like with the ice bridge?
So you got the land bridge, goes across from Russia to Alaska, migrating, following the animals that were there for food. Once they get here, start to associate. Remember, you kind of go back through the channel of history. The Great Migration out of Africa. If all civilization and all man began in Africa based upon history, then the migration out and the continued migration of animals, to continue following, to hunt, to gather, to provide for meals, they continue to go through with the idea of the Ice Age and the land bridge. And as it goes away, kind of traps them where they are, and certain animals here, certain humans here, things like that. Okay, so that's one good idea. They could have possibly already been here, things like that. So it kind of gives you some ideas of what you should have heard through history classes, and also just, in general. Okay, what else? Some things like characteristics, some things that you associate with. I'll give you an example, like some of the other classes, you kind of go to more recent times, like the idea of Trail of Tears. Okay, the idea of reservations, the idea that European American people and all of the history that goes along, with the manifest destiny, moving westward, conquering, taking over, kind of eliminating some of the Native Americans that are kind of herding them into an area. Okay, what else? Give me something. Need about two more. So like a lot of mine, if you sit there and think about the idea, I mean, if I close my eyes and I think of like this big, strong chief that has a humongous headdress on. You know what I mean? You think of some of the rituals that go along, with, say, teepees and fires and drums beating and people circling through, Native American dances and chants, and kind of some of the, history that goes along with the cultural building of the Native American ancestry. How many of you would associate like a buffalo with a Native American? Probably a lot, right? And why would you associate that?
Because they hunt and roam and they eat every single part.
Okay, use that. I always think about the ones of like where there's like, a heart and to like give respect back to the animal for everything that the earth has given to you. So that kind of goes into the idea of like animism. But yes, hunting the native animals that were there and using every single part to be very resourceful of what earth has given you, being respectful of what earth has given you. You know, we get a lot of that, whereas compared to what we're in now, just a fast pace, go, 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 you know, go to McDonald's, grab a hamburger, throw the trash away, go to the next one. You know what I mean? As compared to how life was then. Give me a couple other ones. Okay. We usually don't think of technology being associated with Native Americans, right? But in the beginning times, arrowheads, knives, anything that was made from an animal bone that was created into a new weapon of mastery, that's still technology. That's still something that's new, and it's an innovation of possible some other things. Whether you get from the bow and arrow, whether you get from a bridle type deal, to being able to, you know, to ride, to break, to be able to hunt better, things like that. Those are still innovations and kind of, you know, smart people that have progressed into others. All right. One thing that we're missing out of whenever we say Native Americans, most people here in the United States, whenever you automatically say Native Americans, you associate everything in the United States. However, when it says Americas, remember there's a North America and there's a South America. So you have anything from Canada all the way down to Mexico, from the Mesoamerica, from Central America, all the way down to South America in the very bottom. So like, what are three large groups in areas from Mexico and below that you probably have some ideas about based upon their name? What are some of the groups that are there? One starts with an M. The Mayans. Okay, so that's a big one that was there. Aztecs. There's two. Incas. There you go. So the Mayans, the Aztecs, and the Incas. Those are some big ones. You know, that have to do with Mesoamerica, with Mexico, and further down. Again, it doesn't just have to necessarily be associated with what went on in the States. It's also what went on in the Americas, the continents of North America and South America. You know, we kind of go back to, you know, some of the astrology, some of the history, some of the ideas. You know, most of the time you get the idea of like Mayan calendars. You get the idea of, what was it, like 2012, whenever the world was supposed to end based upon the Mayan calendar. And if that was something that we kind of convoluted into a way of thinking that was it, you know, we talked about this with the other classes. Maybe that dude just got tired of making a calendar. The last guy that was there is like, go do something else, you know. What's that?
Some people said the Mayan calendar was 12 years ahead.
Yeah.
So that 2020 should have been 2012.
2020 should have been 2012.
Yeah,
Well, we're still here, so that's good. But it was a crazy year if they if they were 12 years off, and I guess it'd be 18 years off though, because if it was 2012. So, all right, what else? So the idea though of, you know, some of the history, some of the heritage, some of the advancements, you know, you can't just lose sight of those, because that ends up essentially shaping what the rest of the world is going to be like, especially once the Europeans find out what's on the other side of the ocean. And that kind of transforms not only their life, but also the Europeans into the idea, whether it's for the lost city of gold, the search of, whether it's Spaniards or Portuguese or people from Europe coming over, it's going to be a large change in a channel of events. And we dramatically, and I say we as in us now that we're living in the United States, but the people of Europe dramatically changed the lifestyle of the Native Americans that were there, because they had a life of their own before, like other civilizations, were intermingled into right there. Okay, so that gives you an introduction to chapter 16, section 1. Tomorrow, you'll go in, like I said, as soon as you get your test done, and we'll start creating your notes. I'll write the assignment on the board, kind of for what you're going to, tailor your notes to. But use your time that is the remainder right now in class to finish those 10 answers. You can work with each other. That's fine. Again, collaborate with each other, but you need to make sure that you have a good understanding of those 10 questions, and then use the rest of the maps, graphs, and charts. All right, anybody got any questions? Everybody good? All right, perfect.